welcome to VIA's Support Raising Podcast. We're excited to bring you a special series that is pulled from recordings related to our Support Raising Leaders Conference in 2026. These are our workshop speakers and their expert level content, but we wanted to pull out some of the specific topics and speakers because their content applied to such a broader audience and we didn't want you to miss out. I'm your host today, Callie Davis. I'm part of the VIA Generosity team, and I am so excited to be joined by Ellis Goldstein today. Ellis, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for inviting me. It's good to be here.
I think you've joined us a few times in the past, but it may have been a hot minute.
No, I have, yeah.
For those of you who don't know Ellis, he is a Jewish believer and has been on staff with Cru since 1973. And he has been one of the leading thinkers when it comes to partnership development and how to teach and equip staff. He was the first U.S. director for MPD and was responsible for training the entirety of the U.S. Cru staff, which is just, to me, amazing. And just how well you did that is something I deeply appreciate because it impacted my story as well. And currently, you are a partnership development specialist, and we are so glad to have your experience, your legacy, and just all of you join us today, because I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit of a fan. So thank you, Ellis. And then today, we're talking about your topic, sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly with our partners. And I'm actually just want to start with a really big question of, why is it important what we share with our ministry partners?
The reason it's important is that it's a unique audience. I mean, how many people and how many professions are there where people have this one group of people that really are their team, that they're behind them. And this audience is really unique. You know, in our lives, we have family, we have, personal friends, we have some people that are real close to us that we confide in. But when we're in ministry and when we raise support, we've got another audience. And most likely, it's bigger than the other audiences. When you consider how many people are on your mailing list.
Yeah.
This is a unique group. It's a group that's comprised of some close friends, obviously. It may have some family members, but good chance for many people that are supported that the group is mostly people that they met while they were raising their support. And so it's a very, very unique group. And they are, and most of them are part of your mailing list, however you communicate with them, because they are committed to your mission. They want to pray for you. This is a different kind of group of people. Yeah. And it's a critical group of people, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to be doing what we're doing in our ministry.
Yeah. That seems so interesting to me because it's a high level of commitment and shared value. But even as I was thinking through my own ministry partners, that wide, diverse list of how you know them, how you got connected with them, I have a very wide-ranging history with my ministry partners. Some I know very well. I've known most of my life. Some of them I've known a few years. I talk to them occasionally. So even though there's this deep shared calling, my personal relationship with them seems very new, very young. Like there just hasn't been the same level of relationship and trust built as opposed to my lifelong friends that partner with me as well. Yes. That seems like a difficult audience.
It's a diverse audience, and so when we communicate with them, we do have to keep the diversity of who they are. And I think that's the primary thing to keep in mind, is that who is this group that I'm writing, and hopefully you're communicating with them on a somewhat regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what what do you communicate then with these people? Because I want to say, I feel like there's a responsibility of what we need to share. They are partnering with us because God is doing work in our ministry. We want to tell them about that. We want to tell them what's happening, how lives are changing. I know what I see, and sometimes what I felt is the kind of unspoken expectation that I'm just going to tell them the good pieces of ministry. Here's the lives that they're changing, and we won't talk about the struggles and the difficulties because they're here for those good outcomes. They joined because they were excited about the work we were doing. So let's just share the exciting things. What do we do with that?
Well, that's where the title comes in for the podcast. It's sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oof.
And hopefully, in our discussion today, that as we talk about that, is what we want to talk about is that we want to focus on what we should share, what we do want to write about, what we do want to communicate, but also there are some things in life that really there should be a question: do we share those things? Are we to share all things? And I think that one of the things to consider is that the group of people that are giving and praying for us, this is a significant and important group of people, and it's important to remember and to always keep in focus as we think about them. We are able to be in ministry because God has raised them up to support us, and so they are significant, and I like using the word partners. They are partners in our ministry. We have to consider that. It's easy, I think, sometimes for people to say, if it wasn't for you, or if it wasn't for this person, I wouldn't be able to be in ministry. And that is literally true. Now, obviously, the reason that we are able to be in ministry is because God has called us. But this is what He has designed, and He's raised it up. I mean, He's the one who's created this, where He has called people, and it is a calling for them to support us. And so, in our communication with them, we have to keep that in mind and think through what are the things that they need to hear, and are there some things that perhaps are not included in that letter, or in that communication.
Yeah. Is there a guiding principle to help define what they need to hear?
I think we can approach it this way. When you raise support, when you ask people to join with you, and the way that I like to look at it is that we've asked people to join the Lord in what He is doing.
Yeah.
And so what is God doing? What is God doing in your ministry? And I think that people want to hear about the things that God is doing. Now, there are some hard things in the ministry, and that's okay to share those hard things. There are some exciting things that God is doing, but hopefully that you're thinking that your calling to the ministry is, I want to be a part of helping fulfill the Great Commission. And isn't that what we have asked our partners to join us in, of being a part of what God is doing and sharing the Great Commission? So that means is to share the stories of what God is doing. And I know, it's not every week that something great happens. It's so not asking you to make up stuff, but they want to hear about some of the things. They want to hear about what God is doing, how God is using you. And so look at it this way, that you're the one that is seeing God do things. You're the one that's initiating conversations. You're the one that is helping people take steps of faith to grow. And what we want to do is share some of those stories with our partners. And we want them to feel like they're part of it. One of my partners once said something like this. He said, Ellis, he said, this is kind of selfish. I said, I feel like that when I support you, I have my hands all over what you're doing.
That's really neat.
And isn't that what we would want for all of our partners?
Yeah.
Is for them to share in that vision and feel like I'm a part of this, that and then if somebody says, "Well, I'm only giving such, such and such amount," and then our response needs to be, "If that's what God's called you to do, then that's wonderful. You are a part. You have part ownership in what God's doing here."
Yeah. And I think something that is just kind of striking me as I hear that is wanting your partners to be a part of the process of what ministry is, not just giving them the highlight reel, because it's being a part of things evolving, which is what makes people feel like they're a part of it. They're a part of this growing journey, hearing about the ups and the downs and the barriers and the challenges, and then getting to celebrate when God triumphs, when something moves forward. It's not just here's our 5 gold stars of the year. It's here's this journey we've been on together.
Absolutely. You're also going to find for those that are listening that have a family, or those of you who are thinking about having a family, you're going to have partners that come on board, and when you've sat down to talk with them, however it is, whether you invited them to be a part, whether it was over a video call, whether it was in person, and you're going to have some people that are going to say to you, and because people have heard this, and they said, "I want to hear about your family. That's what I want to hear about."
Yeah.
And one of the things I've seen happen, Callie, is that sometimes people go a little bit too far with that.
Okay,
in other words, where the content of their letter ends up being, almost out of balance, if I could put it that way. But sometimes there are some situations that there has been something serious that's happened, if there's been an illness that's occurred or something like that, that by all means, people are there to pray for you. They're praying for you specifically as you give them personal prayer requests, or they're praying, for the ministry, and you want to invite them to be a part of that. But what I'm getting at is that yes, there needs to be time to talk about your family, but you want to. The overall impact of this letter is to be what God is doing in your life. If you're married, your family's life. But the main reason that they said yes to supporting you, or that you invited them, is to be a part of what God's doing. And you do want to share those stories of what God is doing. They want to hear about how God is answering those prayers and what's happening. And you can say, boy, it's been kind of dry and not a whole lot's been happening in the ministry, even though that we're putting all this work into it. That's okay. It is okay to say that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm curious, do you see more often people lean too far in oversharing about things, or do you see them leaning the other way, that they kind of lack a little transparency? They're kind of just kind of whitewashing ministry to make it look shiny. What do you see as more common?
I think there can be the temptation to do that. I don't think I've seen a lot of letters where people have. I'm not saying that this hasn't happened, but if you feel like, how do I polish this so it's looking more shiny than it really is? Then that's when you know that that we've gone too far. But it's that there are times when perhaps not a lot is happening. That's normal. And so you're asking people to pray for that. You're asking people to, if you're on a college campus and there have been difficulties with the administration, just even being on campus, yes, by all means, share those things. This is not a place where you're sharing your opinions, whether you agree with the administration or something like that. Remember that when we're, whether it's on a campus, we've been, that we're there by invitation. But yes, it's okay to share through those barriers, or it was you're sharing about specific people, and they're not open to the gospel yet, but yet they're willing to talk with you. Yeah, share about those things. That it is okay to talk about the good and the hard, and sometimes a little the ugly. I'll just give you an example. Is that when my late wife and I had a daughter, Heather, and when Heather was involved in ice skating for a long time through her early teenage years, and one of the things that happened one time is that one of the people who I had met long before I had met my late wife, Callie, just as a new staff member. She was a former teacher in my high school, and she became a Christian. It was the year I graduated from high school. And later we connected, and it was just a wonderful connection, and she became a part of our lives. Good conversations, even though we didn't live in the same city.
Yeah.
But I wrote about at times Heather ice skating, and as I look back, I remember one time there was some comments that she made. She's now with the Lord, but there was I remember some comments that she made, some of her personal feelings about whether Heather should even be ice skating or not. And now I didn't agree with those recommendations, what she had said, but it made me think, how much of my letters have I been perhaps focused maybe too much on something that Heather was involved in? I mean, it's by no means is it wrong to share things about what your children are involved in, but is your prayer letter about your children, or is it about what God is doing in the ministry? And so I want to be very sensitive here, because I think it is good to talk about some of the things that are happening in the family. But we have to remember that our major focus has got to be about what God is doing in the ministry. Again, the personal things I think are quite all right to share. But I think as I look back, I wonder if I spent too much time talking about that. Of course, I was a biased father, and I wanted to talk about my daughter's success in ice skating. But the fact that she felt it necessary to share some negative things with me, I'm not so sure how much I shared was, maybe I should have shared less.
And I think it's a hard balance to find.
Yes.
My son is 18 months old, and I have lots of ministry partners who the feedback I get is they only want to hear about him, to be honest.
Yes.
They want more pictures. They want more stories.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I love that their interest in my personal life. I love that they care about my family. But I'm also conscious of they're not partnering with me just to hear stories about this really cute toddler. They're partnering with me because God is doing more. He's doing more in ministry. And I also I think that tension when I go to write an update, like, hey, what's been happening this month? I mean, to me, the most exciting thing is the latest food he's tried, or that he's running now. Like that is the high point. So of course I want to talk about that. But to realize, no, I also need to be looking at what else is God doing. God is at work in more than just my home. And so making sure that I have my attention out looking for the work God is doing, not just what I find exciting in my home, in my life, not just what some partners really do love hearing about, but holding that bigger perspective of what this really is all about and trying to find a balance in that.
That's a really good struggle to have. It's, one of the things that you made me think of is that sometimes what I have done, I've just put a note in my prayer letter, and I do, it's like just a personal update. I'm not saying that that's what everybody should do, but it's for me, it's helpful that sometimes I just want to give them a personal update. I've talked about the ministry, and then I may have a few things to share for a personal update that involves my family.
Yeah.
And really what I'm talking about, Callie, it's where some people may focus many of their letters so much on the family and not on what God is doing in the ministry. And so this is not a letter or a communication. Not that people do this much anymore, where they'll write their relatives and friends, because we have other ways that we communicate now. But so this is not like you're writing a letter just to give people an update on here's what's happening with Mark and here's what's happening with Mary. Here's what's happening. Of course, there's certain times of the year like graduation or something like that you might write a little bit more about those things. So there's a balance there, but it's really, I think, the perspective of the prayer letter needs to come from a perspective that, we're a team, you and the people that are supporting you. Here's what God has been accomplishing through us. This is what he has done. And you are a part of this. I really like to emphasize at times that this is their ministry, that they have a significant part. And I think it means a lot to people when they know that they have been sincerely invited in, that we look at them as more than people that are just handing over money to us. But they are, frankly, they are investing in kingdom work.
I love that. Now, I'd love to take a little bit to dive into maybe some of the how to share the hard, because I think that's where a lot of people struggle. And I think through maybe seasons of where it feels like ministry isn't moving forward. Or I know a lot of people that first year, if they've moved internationally, especially, that first year of transition is overwhelming. And you can either feel like you have nothing to share because Lord knows you're just trying to figure out that you don't have a washing machine, your stove just broke down, you don't even know how to communicate and get help. So the idea of ministry happening is way down on the priority list, and you just can feel stuck. So then you don't communicate instead of finding out how do you invite partners into that so they can walk with you.
As you shared that, the Apostle Paul came to mind. And, as you think about it, saying, what do we know about the Apostle Paul? One of the things we do know is that he had some struggles. We know that there was persecution. We know that it was not always bright and cheery every day. It was hard things. But as you read the scriptures, I think there's something that we can learn from that in terms of, that sounded odd, something we can learn from the scriptures. I don't mean it that way. But I think that we can learn, in learning from Paul, is that he was concise. He talked about it. And so I think that what we can do is that we can write about some of the difficulties, some of the struggles, because that is part of the ministry. The ministry is not always, I saw 20 people come to Christ this week. Let's face it, most people aren't seeing that. That's not what it's like every week.
Right.
But it's I think that as we help them understand the process of what's involved, here's some of the things to pray for. We've had some opposition, talking about that. It's those are okay things. Those are good things to write about. While they may not feel good with what's happened, but yet here, look at it this way: you are not alone in your ministry. You have people that have rallied around you. And I realize that it's not going to be your whole list of partners that may feel this way, but you've got a number of people that they are really committed to what you're doing. I found out something that really encouraged me. I was one of my ministry partners, the husband had passed away. They were perhaps one of my very first ministry partners, going back almost 53 years ago. And so when I was at the memorial service, the celebration of life, one of the things I found out about this ministry partner is that as he had gone to different prayer meetings or different groups that he was connected with, he told them about my ministry. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at is that whether you see it or not, whether they have verbalized it to you or not, is that you have, and I don't know whether it's many or a few, whatever it is, that really feel a close connection with you. And so And so as you share the different things that are going on, the struggles in the ministry, even some struggles in life, which is okay to share, they are behind you. And so I think if there's one thing I want people to understand from our time together today, is that when we use the word partners, these are people that have a stake in our ministry. They love it, and they talk to their friends about it, even though that we may not even have known that. And so the question is, what do we share with them? So, as the Apostle Paul talked about, just some of the struggles he had, some of the persecution he had, that you can believe it, that he wanted the people that were receiving this information to be praying for him. And so that is okay. Matter of fact, it's more than okay that when there are struggles, when even if it's not much is happening and we've been putting in the effort, pray for that. Ask people to pray for it. We want them to be a part. So it's really what my focus is at our time is. It's like, what are some of the things that perhaps that we should focus on? What are some of the things that we need to be careful about? And that's why I mentioned the one example of that I had wondered, even when I was preparing for our time and for the talk at the conference, I was wondering, perhaps did I spend too much time, talking about what God was doing in my daughter's life. I mean, that sounds like, well, that should be something you want to do, but I was wondering if I had overdone it a little bit. Just made me think about that. And I do think that there are some things we definitely share, some things we don't. A friend of mine shared with me, he said that when you're writing your letter, when your communication, that one of the things you want to do is use the inclusive word, is that this is what we are seeing God do. This is what we need to be praying for. So it's including those who are giving and praying for us. Make them feel like they are part of the team.
Because they are.
Yeah. So we're familiar with people saying, or perhaps we've said it, I can't do this without you. Let that not be a cliche. Let it be, when you say that, you need to think through, why am I saying that? Am I saying it because, well, I just want to make them feel better? Or am I saying it because I really believe it? And I would say that if you're not at the place where you really believe that, then you need to pause and confess your sin to the Lord and say, God, I have not been looking at my partners in the right way. They are your gift to me. And I realize that you have raised them up. I couldn't do this if you didn't raise them up to be a part of what I'm doing. And their praying and giving are both significant what they're doing, investments in the ministry. I have a partner just wrote me a couple weeks ago, and he said that he and his wife have made a decision that on, I think it's every Friday or something like that. I think it's once a week. They said, we're going to be praying for you. And to see people say that we are going to make sure that we are including you and making room for you in our prayer life, and intentionally. And I think that happens various ways as we build a relationship with our partners. But as we communicate, whether you're doing a electronic version, whether it's a hard copy version, whatever it is that you're writing the stakeholders of your ministry, and to look at it that way. These are the stakeholders of my ministry. So I think with that perspective, that will help you. It's what is God doing that will encourage you. So think about, what am I encouraged about? What can I do to encourage them? If things are not going the way I had hoped they would go, or it's been a rough few weeks, or I've had some opposition in the ministry, whatever it might be. By all means, feel free to, share those things, because they want to pray. And then one of the other things that you need to do is to let people know how God has answered that prayer.
Yeah.
Let them know. Let them know that, in other words, it's like a stockholder report. Letting people know this is what you invested in.
Yeah.
And this is what God's doing. So I think that's important.
Well, Ellis, do you have a final thought? I feel like you've really brought some fire here at the end, and I want that to definitely be a key thought that people are going to sit with. But is there any other kind of last moment that you'd like to leave with us?
A couple things. Mm-hmm. All right. Let me just add one little thing about your children, and then I'm going to move on from that, say something else. As your kids get a little older, and you want to write about them in your letters, and I think that's fine, but I began to wonder, do you think that there might be some things that you want to, if you're writing about saying, please pray for Mark or Mary, do you think if they're old enough, it might be good to include them and to ask them, Mark, may I have your permission? I would like to write the people that support us and pray for us, about this with you. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. And if they say no, guess what? No.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something I experienced growing up in ministry. I kind of thought it was normal growing up in ministry that we just shared our life with so many people. Mm-hmm. And then as my older brothers got married and I'm in ministry, so I'm still sharing about my family because so many of my partners are longtime family friends. I realized my sisters-in-law thought it was weird. And they just had no frame of reference for why are you telling people? And so, I had to learn hey, I'd love to share the fact that, my niece is doing this or that you guys started this. Are you okay with that? Because similar to your kids who are growing up into middle school and high school, they're going to see some of these people. And these partners are going to maybe ask, how did that go? I heard about this. And I think as a parent, as a family member, you have trust with your family that you want to treasure, that you want to be aware of. And there's maybe some instances that's maybe a personal, private, you have your personal prayer partner that walks through your life with you. And that isn't necessarily a newsletter.
What you just said, the personal prayer partners. Yes, you're right. There's some things that are just between a few people only, not between this 300 people that you're mailing to. Absolutely. I agree with that. And so that is one thing. I think another thing to keep in mind is that, as some of those that are listening are very much aware and just and engage in some way in the turmoil that goes on within our country and around the world. I would say be careful about what you write in your letters about, let's say that you have an opinion, you heard something on the news the other day and you feel very strongly about something. And I would say, I would say that's probably not the place. I'm going to change that. It is your communication with your partners is not the place for your personal views of what may be going on in some aspects of the country. Just be very, very careful that way. Our prayer letters are not a place for political views. Because people have various opinions, and because we may feel a certain way, just be very careful. Keep this in mind. When we communicate with our partners, we have to remember, and this is really important, we are representatives of the mission organization that we're with. We are their representatives. And so if you share your opinions about some things, some of those opinions have no place in the letter because that might be a personal conversation somewhere else, but it's not in the letter, not in your official capacity of representing the ministry. And so just keep that in mind. Just be judicious, as you're communicating. But but overall, keep in mind, these are people that want to hear about the successes. They do want to hear about the good, the bad, or something that did not go well. That's okay. And saying, would you pray about this? It's that's what we want to do. We want to include them. These are, as I said, the stakeholders in our ministry.
Yeah, I love that. It's an opportunity to invite them into a deeper level of partnership, of walking with you, not just celebrating with you. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ellis. This is a topic I know you come with a lot of personal and professional experience, and we really appreciate just the wisdom you've shared, and hopefully this will help a lot of listeners be able to share with the right amount of transparency with their partners moving forward, or at very least asking those questions. What am I sharing? Why am I sharing it? Am I leaning too far one way or the other? So that they can kind of take a moment and actually maybe just think through that for the first time ever, looking at their communication and the impact it has on their partners, which I love. And I hope leads to deeper, more fruitful partners for everyone. Well, thank you, listeners. Thank you, Ellis. We hope you have a wonderful day.